All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Professional Overrun. I am your host, Tony Malika. Today, we're going to be running through a slew of different topics. We're going to be talking about some sturgeon spearing, some guiding, and then also the upcoming walleye opener head-to-head event that's going to be going on the Fox River. So I'm going to be joined here in just a minute by my guest, Ryan Foster. He's been spearing for a long time, so he's going to be coming in as kind of our resident expert today on the sturgeon spearing. He's also a full-time guide, so he'll be talking about his guide business, and then he is also going to be talking with me about the head-to-head event. He's going to be one of the 16 anglers participating in that. So, stay tuned in here, and we're going to have a good episode. Just a reminder, this episode is sponsored by The Real Shot, so if you want to head over to their website, pick up a few things, that'd be a great way to support them. They do have a few sales going on right now. Right now, they're doing an ice fishing blowout sale, so everything's up to 20% off. You can also get the same-day shipping for the Fox Valley area if you need it, and free in-store pickups. So, again, sponsored by The Real Shot. And now, I guess I'll introduce my guest, Ryan Foster, here. If you just want to talk a little bit about yourself, and thanks for coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talk about sturgeon spearing. I've been doing it for 13 years now.
Nice.
And a buddy of mine actually got me into it. Kind of funny story and how I got hooked on it. I remember going as a kid with my dad back when I was in kindergarten. He'd always, back when the season would go for the full 16 days, and it was always 24 hours long.
Nice.
So he'd drop me off at school, he'd pick me up at school, and back and forth to Lake we'd go. But I brought my dog to the vet one day, and a guy I worked with always talked about sturgeon spearing and how he's been doing it for his whole life. I'm like, well, I'd like to check it out. I remember doing it as a kid. So dropped the dog off at the vet, went out by him, and I was sitting there with him and his wife, and I don't know, I was there for probably an hour or two, and I was froze. This fish was coming between my legs. I'm sitting here bent over looking down, and I couldn't talk. I was just, and finally I was able to say, there's a fish. And my buddy stood up, and he was like, all right, just sit still, relax. And I had no clue about how big these fish were, how big they got. And fish came through, and it kind of just cut the corner a little bit. He stood up, grabbed the spear through, and he missed it clear as day.
Oh, jeez.
And he sat down, he was mad. So I just kind of waited for a little bit, and I'm like, all right, you mind if I do something? He's like, what? And I whacked him in the back of the head. Like how did you miss that? And, from what he told me, and just from judging from seeing fish now, I've been doing it as long as I have, he probably missed a good 120-pound fish.
Oh, jeez.
And since that day, it just got me hooked.
Yeah.
So something I always look forward to in the wintertime, great way to break up the winter blues, get out there, do scouting, look around, see what's on the lake, and, when one does come through, just the adrenaline rush, just like bow hunting, when that buck finally does come out of the
buck
woods.
Fever. And
yeah, it's the exact same thing, but at the same time, it's kind of like shooting ducks out of a chimney, and waiting for one to come through is always the hard part, trying to stay positive and trying to stay motivated with it.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to have you in here to talk about this. You obviously been doing it for a long time. I know zero about it other than you go and cut a hole in the ice and you sit with a spear and you wait. So obviously you covered about how long you've been spearing for and how you kind of got into it. Walk us through some of the basics of getting set up. You talked about scouting. Maybe we can talk about how you actually cut the hole in the ice, because to my guess, I've seen some contraptions that do it. I thought maybe you just went out with a chainsaw and cut your big hole.
Sure.
How do you go about doing that, and what does your scouting look like before the season?
Well, normally we have a lot longer season to scout, but this year, because of the ice conditions that we did have with things and the ice blowing off of the lake, it really turned into didn't even know if we were really going to do it, just because of the safety of the ice. And we've been out there and we've done four-wheeler travel before, but it's a lot more nice when you can take your truck out, drive out to the spot, get set up, and pull the shacks around. But normally what we like doing is we'll drive around and we'll go to previous spots where we've seen fish, and we've got, it's called a worm dipper. It's basically like a metal pipe with a top on it.
Okay.
And the sturgeon like eating red worms. So we'll take those. You'll just drill a normal hole when you're ice fishing, drop down, look for red worms, pull up, see what you get for a count, and just keep moving. A lot of guys out there too like drilling a bunch of holes so you can kind of see through the ice while you're ice fishing as well. And if you're seeing fish and you're in the right area, keep moving around, mark that spot, and normally with the best worm count is kind of where you like to be.
Okay.
Something different we did this year as well, just because we were kind of cut short on where we normally spear. We took our Panoptics out there this year and did a lot of scouting
I bet
with that.
that's got to be a huge advantage.
That was definitely a game changer. Just being able to, you've got the red worms in the right area, but to be able to actually see fish on it, that was a complete game changer for us as far as kind of the location we picked. And normally we kind of cut the lake into a smaller quarter than we normally do, just because of the ice safety and getting people out there and stuff was our main concern. But we're on fish. We've been seeing fish. People in our group have gotten fish, but you gotta keep moving with it when you're not seeing them, or you just can't cut your hole one day and sit over top of it and pray for a fish to come through.
So how often do you move around? I know I've talked to some people. I was talking to someone actually yesterday on the phone at work, and she said that they sat in the same spot they have the last 5 years. So how often is it that you move around? Are you one of those run and gun guys? Obviously, there's people that just sit in one spot, but
we run and gun.
Okay.
We'll move daily. And sometimes, if we've got people in our group that are seeing fish, or we get a report where, someone's got some fish and's been seeing more, we'll move even during the day as well.
Okay.
But back to your question with how we cut holes. After we do our scouting, we kind of figure out where we're going to fish. The big thing we do is, there's sled saws and there's chainsaws. They're basically the same thing. Chainsaws where you actually, I use my normal wood cutting chainsaw. I've got a 42-inch bar on it.
Okay.
And set up, you mark your hole so you know what you're going to cut. And you cut it at like a 45. You just put a slight angle in it, so that way instead of looking down a square block, which one would be almost impossible to sink, but that way when you're sitting inside your shack, you can actually see down, and you've got that 45-degree angle just so you can see fish out a little bit farther.
Nice.
Chainsaw, and then also the sled saw is exactly the same thing, except for it's basically like on a sled. And you just engage the lever, and that way you walk behind it compared to getting down with one person cutting it. So they both work good. The sled saw is definitely probably a better way to go, where you get a nicer angle and more consistent angle.
Yeah.
But they both work great to do that. And once you get those set up, you can back your shack over it. And what we like to do right away, especially when you can start cutting on Thursday, we'll get guys out there. We'll get shacks cut in, and we'll get guys just sitting there. A lot of times adult beverages are flowing and looking down the hole. Hopefully it gets you excited for opening day, to where you see a fish or two and gets you excited. But if not, we've even pulled those shacks off those holes, and we've moved them a couple times before the season started, just because we don't like the clarity, or we don't like the way the bottom looks. Just you're not feeling it.
Yeah. So obviously, if you move your shed or your shack, you've got to mark those, I'm assuming, right?
Correct. You do have to mark those.
Is there like a legal way that you have to mark them, or is it just kind of whatever people deem necessary?
What everyone normally does is they just take wooden, like little wooden sticks, wooden dowels, and they put it on each corner of the hole. And normally what we do is when we cut our holes, we cut them wide enough so we can actually pound those down in the ice a little bit. So that way as it gets warmer, like it's going to this weekend, snow melts and stuff, they just don't fall over. That way they're in the ice. It's going to get cold the next couple of days. So those will freeze in for a little while. Yeah. And that way they'll stay there. So that way when four-wheelers are out there, snowmobilers, and especially like Battle on Bago with people that are coming out that don't know what has been there, they can see those and they know where to go.
Excellent. So with the season, obviously you get it's a tag, right? You get.
Yep.
How do you go about? Do you have to apply for it? Are there only so many of them? Walk us through that process. How you go about doing that?
That's a great question, because you have until Halloween. The 31st is the cutoff date to apply for your tag. Winnebago, you can automatically buy it once it opens sometime in March or whenever they come out. You've got till Halloween to get your tag.
Okay.
You're good to go. If you forget to get your tag, which I did last year, then you're SOL.
Okay.
You got to wait till next year, and we actually had 3 people in our group last year, because there is an upriver tag that you can apply for, and that goes off preference points. So you got to tell, I think it's June, that you have to get your team or just yourself individually in for the lottery. Well, we did that, and we completely forgot to apply for or buy or actually Winnebago tags. So last year there was 3 of us in one of our shacks, and we had probably 4 or 5 more people just sitting around watching. We had 2 fish swim through with no spears in the water, just sitting there watching a fish swim through. And
that sucks.
Just shaking our heads. So that was definitely something that we've learned that we will not forget. And I was actually in my tree stand November 1st that evening, and I'm like, oh, man. And forgot the tag. So
dawned on you.
That will not happen again. But anyone that is looking forward, or that does want to get out and actually do some sturgeon spearing for next year, make sure you get your tag before Halloween. Got till midnight.
Yeah. So over the years, how many fish have you harvested?
I have harvested 4.
4?
So
okay.
And I was on a streak for a while where I got 4 in a row, and I don't know if the horseshoe fell out or whatnot, but not that we haven't had the opportunity to get fish or see fish or have thrown at them, but just haven't been able to connect. We've had a lot of cloudy years since then. The water's been dirty, ice, wind blowing and stuff, to where that lake just hasn't been able to settle down as much as we want, or runoff as well too. That so many things contribute to making that water clarity.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use cameras, and that's another big topic that people are for and against. It is a sport, it's not a sport, kind of deal. Depends who you talk to and what part of the shoreline you go on. But
how's the clarity been this year so far?
This year's getting better day by day.
Okay.
We can see bottom. We're about 16 feet of water, and
okay.
we can just barely see bottom. And I mean, people use cameras. They put down pipes, anything to brighten up the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of used it all. Everyone normally says what you want is you want the fish to decoy. So you don't put stuff on the bottom. You do put stuff on the bottom. I mean, everyone's kind of got their own method.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked to put stuff on the bottom if I'm able to see it. That way, if a fish does go through, you're at least able to reference for it. And I have gotten fish doing that way. I've gotten fish off camera. I've gotten fish 5 feet below the ice. So I've kind of experienced all of it, but kind of use whatever's out there to help you get a fish.
Absolutely.
Helps the best.
Yeah, any advantage you can get. I mean,
we try.
Like you said, it's like shooting a duck through a chimney. You're just waiting for that one moment. So, what's the biggest sturgeon that you've harvested?
I don't remember the length of it, but I think it was 87 pounds.
Okay.
Got like an 87, 83, like a 35.
Okay. Have you heard any over 100 yet this year? I saw one person, I think it was over in the Winnicott area, at 98.2 or something like that.
Yeah, they got a nice one. Actually, the one group, I just came from the lake, actually, and the shack that I just stopped at, his wife missed one yesterday, hit it in the head, and that was about a 100-pounder, he said, they missed.
Geez.
So they're still a little upset about that one, but,
yeah.
That's what keeps you coming back. And her husband that was actually in that shack, he tagged a fish opening day along with his buddy, 2 different shacks, 2 fish, exact same time.
Oh, wow.
At 11:30, they were both done.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, you're just sitting there waiting for that perfect opportunity, whether the fish are out moving because trucks are driving around, the pressure, the weather. I mean, it's just so hard to...
How active are these fish during the winter? I mean, I've gotten into them in the spring, and, I mean, they fight real hard, so I'm assuming they're probably active year-round to grow that big and whatever, and they're bottom feeders, so...
Right. That's a question I think all of us would like to know. Kind of like deer hunting. You go out and you're hoping the deer move. I mean, are they going off the moon phases? Are they going off the timetable? The pressure in the air? I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. It's so hard to tell, but you're just hoping you're in the right place at the right time.
Okay. So, obviously, the spear is the weapon that you guys use. You're throwing it down. Are you guys using any decoys down there? Is there anything that you can use to draw the fish into your area, or?
The sturgeon are a curious fish, so you can really use kind of whatever you can sink and retrieve. You can kind of use it as long as it doesn't have bait. You can put it down the hole. The one guy I know that got in our group that got the 65-pounder on Saturday, he had his kid's monster truck down the hole.
That's weird.
Fish came into that. I don't know what the other person had down the hole. I'm traditionally I like a white coffee cup. It's normally something I put down. You go around the bars around the lake and stuff. They've got a bunch of different wooden decoys, different color schemes they put out there that hopefully it draws a fish in or at least gets that fish curious. But I mean, I've heard from guys putting yellow safety cones down the hole to disco balls.
Wow.
To the older guys and that are more traditional, or they've got their one secret decoy that it just can't leave the hole. My personal favorite that I've got is the guy that got me into the spearing. He's actually got those action figure jaws with the mullet opens. He's got that down the hole, and he got me like a miniature one from Disney or wherever he got it, it's a bunch of different colors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one of the decoys I normally always have down my hole. It's kind of just something that was given to me and one of my go-tos.
Yeah.
But
So when you say they're curious and they come in, are they just coming up and nosing it? What are they coming in and check out? Do you have any idea?
I've seen them do it all. We've had them come in, had them bump the cup, and just sit there. I've had them come through to where I don't know if they see the motion when someone stands up or moves, to where they'll cut the hole. And sometimes they're just on bottom, just pass them through. I mean, kind of no rhyme or reason why or what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're just out searching for fish. It's really
Okay.
fish, worms. I mean, they like eating shad a lot too, something
Yeah.
I didn't touch on. Another bait fish that they like to eat a lot.
Okay.
I know with the shad die-off that we've had, we haven't had as many in the system as we had like 2 years ago. We'd see a lot of shad.
Mm-hmm.
But, you're always just trying to – I've got a bag full of tricks, and you're always just changing it up. I've got bowling balls I've sunk.
Oh,
I've
jeez.
got, just trying to be creative
Yeah.
and put something down there.
So with the spear, do you have those set up? Are you physically throwing them down? Is it set up on a system where you can just release it and it drops? Is there techniques with it? Walk us through the actual spearing process.
There's a little bit of technique that goes to it because, I mean, especially when you put a pipe in the water, you just put something in the water, how you've got that, it's got that automatic bend in it. So, I mean, you got to judge it a little bit. And instead of an actual throw where you're grabbing and throwing as hard as you can, it's more of just a nice push.
Okay.
These spears are weighted. Guys are using anywhere from, I think they've got a size limit on them now, or there will be one coming out. But I mean, I've got 5 tines that we use on all of our spears. To people I know that use like a harpoon type with it just got one spear.
Okay.
Guys are really changing it to be a sport compared to going out there and kind of like your deer hunting. They see it's got to be a minimum of 36 inches.
Okay.
So a lot of guys that have been doing it for a while are letting those fish go. I mean, other people, hey, it's a sturgeon. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they're going to throw out whatever they can as long as it's over the legal limit. So,
yeah.
But no, all the spearheads are connected to a rope normally you tie into, an eye bolt through the floor or whatnot. And you've got it roped up, or how we have them. Guys will either set the rope on the floor, so that way when they throw at it, it just nice, easy coils out. Or what we do is we've got like a clothes hanger inside the shack that we just drape the rope over, so when you do throw it, that rope just goes nice and easy with the spear.
Okay.
When you do hit a fish, the head does detach from the actual handle itself, and then that way you're actually fighting the fish on the rope compared to having a 8-foot handle you're trying to hold around and get this fish in. So
how long do they usually, depending upon, I'm sure it depends upon where you actually spear them, but how much of a fight is it? Is it pretty tough to get them in? I mean, it's not even comparable to having them on hook and line when you accidentally get them,
Right.
But you're on a rope with it. But how difficult is it to get it then out of the water once you actually spear it?
Well, that's where you got gaffs, or hopefully you've got some buddies with you, depending on the size of the fish. I've had all situations from where I've thrown at a fish on the camera, and I've got it with one tine, to where it came up and I was like, whoa, that fish isn't hit really good at all. Where you put another spear into it, then you can pull it right up. I mean, unless you see what your shot is and what you're really dealing with, you kind of, just like when you get them on hook and line, you don't want to snap your line off or lose your bait, or you want to get your bait back. Try you play them out a little bit till you can say, like, oh, I've got them good, and you can pull them up. But, I mean, the guys that got the record, that was 4 or 5 years ago already, and they've got that 190-pounder or whatever it was.
Okay. Was that on the Winnebago system?
That was on the Winnebago system, right out of the North Shore.
Wow.
And it was just 2 older gentlemen. It took 2 guys to pull it up, and, I mean, they fought that fish for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you hit it perfectly, which I have not yet, they say once you hit it, you can just pull it right up and the fish is paralyzed. And
okay. What do they consider a perfect shot? Is it behind the head, like behind the gills, or?
You want to be behind the gills.
Okay.
Behind the gills, center would be perfect. Those heads are like a steel plate. If you do hit him in the head, that spear more likely is going to bounce off.
Okay.
Like we had the situation yesterday where she hit it straight in the head and
just bounced straight off and just kept going?
She said the fish spun twice and it was gone.
Okay.
So
have you ever had one where you've hit it not so well and you've actually almost run out of your rope that's attached to the head, or?
I haven't had that yet, but we've got 50 feet on our ropes.
Okay.
I mean, you got to figure in the deepest spot of Winnebago, you've got 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure at least you need
20 feet to get down.
20 feet to get down, and hopefully that, I mean, if it's outside at all, I mean, you want to be able to at least have a little bit to play with. But we use half-inch nylon rope.
Okay.
So that works really nice and easy for us. And I'm sure there's other people that have other ways they do it, thinner, thicker, longer. And that's just the way that I was taught. I'm sure there's plenty of different ways that guys set it up, though.
So you mentioned earlier a 36-inch limit for regulations. What are some of the other regulations for if someone wants to get into it that they have to account for, that they need to learn?
The big thing is, you got to make sure you get your tag on you at all times when you're in the shack. If you're in the shack, you're allowed to have your doors open from Thursday until the season closes, but you can't have any spears in the water.
Okay.
You can't have any spears in your shack. I'm sorry. Gaff and stuff, that's all got to be outside. So if people are going to be in there, make sure that's all cleared out. Otherwise, as far as lures and decoys and whatever you want to put down, as long as you can retrieve it, you can basically use it.
Okay.
Is the big thing. I know back in the day, guys used to put eggs down the hole. They'd put potatoes and just scent and stuff to bring fish in, which since then they've outlawed and banned.
Okay.
But long as you can sink it and retrieve it, you can put it down.
Now, how long does the season last?
Normally they've got a quota that they hit when they've either hit their male, their juvenile, or their female. Once they get to 80%, they'll give you a 24-hour notice to where they'll shut the season down. I think it's been probably 5 or 6 years since we've actually hit that quota.
Okay.
Just because clarity in the water, not from people not being out there, but just the clarity, and a lot harder for people to hit. So that's been the big thing there. But otherwise, like even this year's probably going to go the whole length. It's going to go the whole length of the season, and they're even predicting Lake Poygan as well, and Upper Lakes to go the whole length as well. Which normally that's done opening weekend or really close in the
So
first
is
couple
that
days.
just a better area to go be able to do the spearing in Poygan and up the river, or?
It's a lot shallower,
Okay.
So you got a lot better visibility. Plus, you've got the rivers that those fish are staging towards to go up and spawn once the ice melts and stuff. So those fish, there's more fish up in that area, and especially with it being such a smaller lake as well. It's a lot easier to kind of get into the rivers or the old river beds and kind of see where these fish are compared to breaking down Lake Winnebago in 20 feet of water to where a lot of your percentages go up a lot more when you do get drawn up that way.
So how does the DNR go about choosing their limits? Are they doing electroshock fishing during the summer to find out population numbers, or what are they basing all that off of? Do you know?
I believe a lot of it is just going off of from when they do their tagging in the springtime along the Wolf and going along that, and Ryan Canning and all those guys getting their numbers as far as what's out there, as far as the numbers that they predict that are in the lake. And I mean, from the numbers that over the seasons of people not getting fish as far as what their quotas are. So I'm not too keen on that, but I believe that's what they go off of.
Okay. And then for the tagging system, is it like old school deer hunting where you had to take it to Joe's bar with the tag attached to it, or did they move to electronic system like they did hunting?
Nope, this one here you still gotta bring it to a bar and register. When you do get a fish, you got to keep your tailgate down, or at least the fish has to be visible for you to see.
Okay.
Bring it to the bar. Then they've got the DNR there that'll actually handle the fish, measure the fish, see if it's an F1, F2, F3, or 4 for females. As far as, and 4 is the highest level they can go to as far as fish being pregnant with eggs.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, they'll do all their studies and tests on it, and they'll even ask some people as far as if they can take samples and stuff out of their fish so they can do studies and more research on them. But then after that, you're free to take your fish into the bar, which a lot of people do.
Throw them on top of a pool table, right?
Yeah, they do a ton of that. Especially on that east shore, if you've never seen it and want to kind of get into it, that's kind of a cool thing to do is drive that east shore and kind of see.
I've heard some disgusting stories about that. Is it something, I don't know if it's been outlawed, or I've heard old-timer, I don't remember who told me this story, but where they've actually gone and they've bought a bottle of booze, poured it down its mouth, and everyone's taking shots out of the mouth. To me, that heck no, not happening. Is that something that still happens? Is that like old school stuff, or
no? That still happens.
Oh,
I've definitely seen people do it, and as the longer the season goes on, or once someone gets a fish, I should say, the longer the night goes on and the partying, who knows what's going to do what with that fish. But I have definitely seen that done. But you drive through Stockbridge and check it out. A lot of the bars actually have places where they hang the fish. So if someone does get them, they're on display for people to see. You can go to the bars, talk to the fishermen, hear their stories, and kind of see what it's all about and get the feel for it. But definitely a a lot of people like to celebrate once they do get one.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's just like you getting your big buck going down to the bar to show all your buddies and have a couple 6-packs and head home.
You have to. I know as far as registration stations during the week, especially how slow things have been this year, they've closed down some of the registration stations during the week. They'll probably reopen on the weekend, but that'll all determine as far as how numbers go as well.
Okay. Someone did chime in here with a question that I'll just get answered here. Are the spears barbed? I'm assuming they are.
Yep, a lot of them are. And actually, the first year that I got into spearing, all the spears that we have are all flying barbs on ours. Some are built in or whatnot. The first spear that I bought myself was actually like a Rage broadhead kind of.
Okay.
Where it was a lot thinner metal that the barb was on. And opening day, I hit a fish. My buddy came over to give me a hand. We were fighting it, and I had 3 tines in this fish, and it just pulled out. Okay. It wasn't thick enough to get a grab for it, so that fish did come off, unfortunately. But no, the ones that we use are all probably about a 1/4 inch wide as far as the barbs. But there's so many different types of spears that are out there, as far as detachable widths and stuff are built in that people do use. So
okay, excellent. So other people know too, if you've got other questions, feel free to throw those in the chat here. We're going to do a Q&A session at the end just because we are covering so many different topics today. But one of the questions that was in here is actually going to be part of my next question. What do people do with their sturgeon when they get them? If they're big, do they get them mounted? What do you do with the meat? What's the process after you actually get one?
Whatever you want, or kind of whatever. Everyone's kind of got their own thing. My favorite I like to do is I like to clean them up, and I'll actually take them. I'll put them in some flour or panko and just put them right on top of the grill and cook them that way. Okay. Other people, they bring them in, they get them smoked. Is the other thing deep fried? I've had them all sorts of ways. And
what's your favorite way to eat them?
I would like the deep fried or pan fried. Okay. Would be my favorite. Biggest thing is, they're kind of like a catfish where you got to get that yellow fat, that belly fat out of them. Mm-hmm. If you get that out of there, they taste phenomenal. It's kind of, best way to describe it, in my opinion, is kind of like a mahi-mahi. Okay. It's got its own distinct taste. Mm-hmm. Not that it tastes like mahi, but it's just its own certain fish if you've had it before. Okay. So I think that's the big thing that people like. But I know a lot of people like just taking them. They'll take them right to Susie Q's and get them smoked as well. Or they'll do it themselves. But I know I think the 2 that they got this weekend out of our group are going right there to get smoked. Okay. So, you said your biggest one was, 88 pounds, you said? Yep. How much meat are you actually getting out of that fish? It's like 2 big back straps off of a deer. Okay. Basically, you lay them down, and the way that I clean them is we clean them right down the center. You kind of just fold the skin back, and you peel them off the rib cage. So there's no guts and stuff how we do them. Mm-hmm. But that's the way I've been taught. I'm sure there's other ways that people do them. I've heard they hang them up like a deer. They carve them that way as well and come down on them. So kind of whatever tradition or whatever way people have been taught how to do it. And there's probably no right or wrong reason. Some people may think there is, but however you want to do it. I've heard as slimy as they are, too. I've even heard of people taking them to a car wash and actually power washing the slime off them. They've got the mats where you can hang your mats. Mm-hmm. They plop them right on there and they power wash them. Oh, wow. I've heard. So we haven't done that, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else you wanted to chat on sturgeon spearing, or otherwise I was going to move on to your our next order of business here? No, if it's something that guys want to get into, or anyone out there that wants to get into, I do have shacks available for renting. Okay. So something they want to get a hold of me after the season, can definitely get you set up into a shack and get you out with us, you spear with us, and definitely take care of get you to the lake or to the shack and back from the shack safe and sound. And cool. We've got plenty of shacks to accommodate from 1 person up to 4 people. So it's all part of your guide business and everything? Yep, definitely something I do to kind of keep it going during the wintertime. Yeah, absolutely. Something I always look forward to. Well, so the next topic I wanted to chat with you on here is your guide business. So you're the owner of Crazy Eyes Guide Service, and we were chatting a little bit earlier too. You do guiding full-time, you work full-time, and then you also have a power washing business as well? Yeah. So you're busy. I'm busy. It's kind of nonstop. Yeah, and you mentioned your schedule is 7 on out of 14 days, basically? You got a lot of free time? Got a lot of free time. Basically work 7 days in 2 weeks, so it kind of gives me the opportunity to kind of dip my hands in all these things, and something I've always been very passionate about and like doing. I've been guiding for 10 years now, or 9 years we've been going on. Okay. And guide between the Winnebago and Bay of Green Bay systems. Okay. Walleye, bass, muskie, and kind of whatever bites going the best, we kind of like to follow.
Okay. So what kind of got you into the guiding? Is it just something you wanted to do on the side? Was it part-time, or did you just jump in full-time when you started doing it, or?
No, it was kind of just something I wanted to always do. Like teaching people and showing, I mean, as well as teaching people, I like learning from other people as well. Something that's always kind of got me passionate about fishing. I've been fishing since I've been a kid. But the National Walleye Tour, or it was actually back in the day, it was the Professional Walleye Tour, came to Winneconne when I was a senior in high school. And I'm like, this is just something I want to do. I want to fish tournaments. Got into it, and I had a bass boat at the time. And that tournament, I fished with 3 great pros, learned a ton of stuff from all of them. And since then, I think it was Monday morning, I went down to Beloit and bought my first walleye boat.
Okay.
Like, I got to have a walleye boat. I can't have a bass boat. And from there, I got into it. I've got to meet a ton of great people. I've learned a ton of great stuff. And I've actually got to meet my fishing partner, Jeff, who was a guide as well. He owns his guide service, iTime Guide Service.
Okay.
And from us competitive fishing against each other to teaming up and kind of making one team, and we've been partners for the last 10 years and been fishing tournaments. Something we've kind of came up with is our Crazy Eyes Outdoors tour, being best friends, where we've got our guide services where we work together. We like to do deer hunting together, fishing. Can't get him on the ice as much as I'd like.
Okay.
I think he's going to come out. I think he's actually going to come out spearing on Friday.
All right.
So his first time out doing that. But it's just something that we've always been passionate about and something that we really enjoy doing. So along the way, I've met a ton of great people doing it, clients and stuff. And the repeat business has just been awesome with clients that fish with me and know how I like to do things. And they like to learn, but at the same time have a good time and catch fish.
Yeah, absolutely. I went out with a guide 2 years ago out on Sturgeon Bay, and he said he's met some of his best friends that way. You just get to know your clients well, and they repeat want business and everything. And he said he had a guy that I think he said books him like 3 or 4 times a year, and he goes, all this money you're spending on this, you could just buy your own boat. He goes, but then I have the upkeep, I have the insurance, I have this. I don't get to fish with you. He's like, I'd rather pay you, help your livelihood, get to hang out with my buddy, and not have to put all the time in because I don't get to fish as much as I'd like to. I'm limited to pretty much the weekends I go with you. And I was like, well, that's one way to look at it, I guess. I mean, for me, I like to get out whenever I can, but I would rather have my own boat. But you do get to meet a lot of interesting people, I'm sure.
Well, kind of going off that too, what got me into pressure washing was my buddy Tommy Boy from Stevens Point, who's been pressure washing the last 30 years. Same thing. He hired me 10 times the first year, 10 times the next year. So in 3 years, he's hired me 30 times. And over that, the friendship we created and stuff, and just the talking as far as my career paths and things I want to do in the future. Pressure washing was something that he's done and something I've carried down to the valley, and I've been mentoring off him a bunch and learned a ton.
Yeah.
So I've always said you make the greatest friends fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your guide business, what is probably the most popular trip? Is it walleye?
Walleye would definitely be the most popular.
Okay.
And we like, as soon as we get the boat out, we're up into pier fishing, which looking forward to as far as the head-to-head as well.
Yeah.
We'll be out there. Normally, we've been out a couple times already this year.
I was going to say, is that open right now? I haven't been up that way in a while.
I know last weekend it was. I know some guys were out. I'm sure with the next couple days we've got coming with the cold weather, it's going to ice back up.
Yeah, it'll follow back up with, we have, I think, 140 degree day next week.
It'll open.
Rain, so
it'll be back open, and I think from there, with the amount of current we've got flowing through the Fox River, I don't think it'll be long. Those guys will be up there full time, pounding away.
Nice.
But we bounce back and forth between the pier and the Wolf River, and we'll follow those fish along the way. And as they trickle back down to Lake Poygan, Winnebago, we'll cover that. And as the bay starts to open up and those fish start going out, we'll hit other tributaries as well along the east and west shores and start casting for those fish as well until the opener. And then from there, it's kind of back and forth. It's probably 50-50 as far as if I'm on Winnebago one day or the bay the next, but back and forth quite a bit.
Now, when you're up on the bay, do you get a lot of people requesting smallmouth trips, or?
I get my fair share.
Okay.
It's probably not one of my most popular trips, but definitely something I do along the way. Something fun to do and kind of break it up a little bit as far as going from walleye all the time as well.
Okay. So where can people find out information about your guide business and how to book you? Is it Facebook, website? What do you have?
We've got my Facebook page, which is Crazy Eyes Guide Service. My partner and I, we have our Crazy Eyes Outdoor page.
Okay.
And then we've also got his guide service, iTime guide service, and then we've got our websites as well, crazyeyesguideservice.com and itimeguideservice.com.
Okay. So is it just the two of you that are kind of together in that outdoors thing? Obviously, if you're working, sometimes you can't get on the water all the time. I'm sure you guys share some information.
Oh, yeah.
I know most guides do usually because it's in their best interest for their clients and everything to keep people coming back to the bodies of water. But how does that interaction work? Is it just you and your one buddy that are sharing information? Are you sharing it with other guides?
We got a bunch of guys we work with.
Okay.
As far as the Bay, Green Bay, Winnebago, our fishing team that we share information with, those guys are also guides as well. So we've got a good network of people that, most of us out there do have full-time jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So when guys are able to get out there and fish, we share information to keep our clients on the fish as well as when it comes to a tournament. So we can kind of break down the water, where to go, what to do, and where to pick up from.
Okay, excellent. Well, when you're getting up there, I guess I'm not a huge walleye guy. My walleye expertise is pretty much getting out on the Wolf River, up on the Fox River, and just doing a little bit of jigging with some minnows and a jig head. What are some of the more popular techniques after that kind of fizzles with your clients? Are you taking them out with planer boards, or what are some of the more popular ways?
We can definitely do planer boards. And kind of one thing I've always said is when I book trips with people is, the smaller groups, the better, to where it kind of opens more doors.
Mm-hmm.
You get two people in the boat. We like going up to the tributaries up on the Bay, Green Bay, and casting for those walleyes that actually spawn in that lake or are waiting to stage to go up to the rivers and spawn.
Okay.
And it's a great time to catch a fish of a lifetime. And we do a lot of casting as far as rip and wraps, blade baits, and even casting big stick baits as well in the shallows on those sand flats that water warms up the fastest first.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely areas that we hit a bunch. But the more people that we get inside the boat, we'll go to trolling techniques as well. And that way you're able to also cover more water,
mm-hmm.
find if those fish moved or where they are on those sand flats. And that way you can kind of break it down that way as well. Okay.
And how was business for you last year? I know with the high water, there was never truly a real run for the walleye per se. Was it affecting your business at all, or were you able to stay on them pretty well? Or?
No, we had a great year. And it was a different year because we were able to learn as far as those fish that came through. It just kind of seemed like it was never a full run.
Okay.
There was just schools of fish that continuously came in. So it opened up the door as far as techniques that we were able to try. But we did a lot of fishing in the shallows last year for fish, which made it a ton of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never done it outside, like I said, jigging and stuff. So I'd love to be able to get out sometime and try it out. I don't think the planer board trolling stuff's for me, but if you can do some of the shallow water fishing, being a bass guy, that's my forte. I'd like to give that a shot sometime. So
we do a lot of nighttime fishing with planer boards
up
in the shallows, and then also casting as well.
Okay.
Kind of depending where we're at and as far as boat traffic and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of is a big deciding factor as far as what we're going to do.
Yeah. I know on the spring on the Fox River I catch a lot of walleye just going out smallmouth fishing.
Oh, yeah.
Them hitting the little Kitex or tube heads or whatever, or net heads, all of a sudden you're like, is that a rock? Nope, that's a walleye. And it starts to fight a little bit. And I actually caught a sauger last year that I didn't realize was actually a good size. I just thought, they grow about the same size as walleyes, but next thing I know, I was like, I think it was like 16.5 inches, and one of my buddies was like, it's actually a really good size sauger, especially for the Fox River. So I had no idea, and it next day I wish I would have taken pictures, just because people did say, being a sauger that size, it's a almost not a trophy, but it's a very good fish for the Fox River system. So, but yeah, so. Tournament fishing, you've been doing that for a long time. We've got a new event coming up that we were talking earlier, excited to do the head-to-head event, going 1v1 versus 16 other anglers up on the Fox River, March 23rd through the 26th. Walk us through kind of what you think might play in that tournament, being that time of the year. I mean, it's kind of tough with not knowing the weather yet.
Right,
but
exactly. Like we were kind of talking about, we don't really know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That time of year, we could be sitting in shorts and flip-flops, hopefully, and the walleyes are full run, and you could see some really big weights. But at the same time, it could be 6 inches of snow, and it could be just a grind to catch a couple fish as well. So
yeah,
we're really looking forward to it. I mean, the guys that are in this are elites, especially in the area. I think everyone's won a tournament that's fished in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to see a lot of different tactics as far as how people are fishing and how it plays out, but definitely looking forward to it.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of recap so people kind of have an idea. The head-to-head event is something that the Real Shot and their partners and everybody kind of put together last year, and this is going to be the kickoff to their season this year. It's going to be 16 anglers over 4 days up on the Fox River into Pier. They're going to be able to fish from the dam all the way out to the mouth of the river up by the bay. So 16 anglers. There's going to be 8 anglers on the water at a time. So day 1, there'll be one session from 7 to 12, and then the second session will be from 1 to 6 for the other 8 anglers, and it's 1v1. First place prize is $10,000. Second place will get $2,000. But it'll all be live streamed right on the head-to-head fishing page. It's going to be a really, really cool event. One thing I think that'll be interesting and kind of throw a quirk into this is no live bait and a 2-pound limit. So what do you think that's going to do playing in with your strategy, especially with a 2-pound limit on those? 'Cause I know you don't want to get a bunch of small little males. You want to have a decent fish.
You're going to see guys get creative.
Mm-hmm.
I really think so. And especially if it continues to stay warmed up, you're going to see some guys really swinging for the fence and putting some really nice fish in the boat, because that's a great place to go fishing. And in a 4-hour time period like that, there's no reason why you can't put 25 to 35 fish in the boat fishing. So it's going to be a strategy thing, kind of depending as far as where the fish are as the spawn is going on, as far as whether you're going to go for just numbers and go for those 2-pound fish, or if those bigger females are being active to where you might not want to go for as many bites, but go for the quality of fish. So it's going to play out. And I mean, as far as spots on that river to fish, I mean, there's so many that we'll be out there. We'll be out there breaking it down. I'm sure all the other anglers will as well.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, I think the big thing that will be a factor in this is the sheer number of other boats that'll be there.
That's going to play.
If no one's ever fished up there before, it's on a weekend. We're doing this on a Saturday, Sunday, or is it Thursday through Sunday or whatever? On the weekends, you can, no joke, almost literally walk across the river.
You can.
I've been up there, and there's some people up there that just have no care about other people's equipment. They'll bang into you. They'll cast over your lines. They'll cut your lines. I mean, it's not – I don't want to paint a picture that it's terrible, but it's definitely going to play into a factor for you guys in needing to do what you need to do with the event. I mean, you guys have some serious money on the line.
Exactly. We're going to have to, everyone's going to act professional and be courteous as well at the same time. But definitely, I mean, you got someone that's in your spot, or you got someone that's trolling, or, I mean, there's just so many factors of being up there. I mean, you've seen the things that do happen that it's going to play a major mind game on us as far as what we can do, as far as where you can go and stuff. So hopefully we don't run into any of that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's gonna be interesting to see how it all shakes down.
Yeah. My guess is most of you guys will probably try to find something away from the crowds. I know in my limited time up there, I've found good success getting away from people and just trying to find those edges that are a little different than everybody else and not having to play the bumper boat game.
Right.
But there's also a ton of good fish up by the dam where everybody is, and I mean, you can go shore fishing up there and just whack them. So that'd be interesting. I don't know, is that even a rule? Could you shore fish this event?
I don't
just sit there and get in waders and have your camera guy next to you holding the
The only problem with that would be is probably all the baits that are going to ricochet off the side of your boat.
Yeah.
So I mean, those guys are full contact fishermen when you're up that way. So you got to make sure to give them plenty of room as well.
Definitely interesting. So and I know I've seen multiple people. I've been with people that have hooked sturgeon up there during this event. My guess is if you get one and you realize it's sturgeon, you're just going to cut the line, probably not battle it out.
Me, I'll probably battle it out. I want to see it.
You want to see it?
I want to see it.
Yeah. Most people do. I know I was up there, I think it was 2 years ago, I was up there with my buddy Justin, and we got one, is a foul hook on the tail, and we wanted to get the hook out and everything, and I don't remember how big it was. I think it was like over 50 some inches or something like that. And it was like a 4-hour fight.
Yeah.
On 8-pound fluorocarbon on a drop shot rod. And it was just unreal. Yep. And all we want to do is get the hook out because we don't want to leave a jig hook stuck in its tail, get it up. But it took forever. I remember I was dating my now wife at the time, and she's like, well, what time are you going to be home? And I told her, oh, yeah, we're just about to head back. And as I hang up the phone, not 5 minutes later, zzz, we're like, oh, boy. This
That is
going to be a while.
my favorite question when I'm fishing. When are you
Yeah.
going to be home? And normally
I think it's everybody's.
Yeah, and I'll tell the wife, I'll see it. I'll be home in like an hour or two.
Yeah.
Just times that by like 4.
Right.
Or if it's a couple hours, just in a couple hours I'll be home.
Yeah. Luckily for me, I fish some stuff that's close to my house, so it's usually at dark, and then I'm home within 20 minutes because I just got to load the boat up. So.
Yep, exactly.
But, yeah, that's probably a question most wives ask their husbands or significant others and everything. So,
and how many are actually on time would be the cool stat to know.
Probably most of them not. Is my guess. So let's see if we've got any questions that float in here. If anyone's got any questions now, I know we don't have a ton of people on here, but if anyone's got any other questions for Ryan, feel free to ask. Obviously you're in this head-to-head event, and we talked that all 16 anglers are good anglers here. Are you looking to sign up for any of the other events for like the actual series throughout the summer with the events through Wisconsin, Minnesota, then the championship round? Or
Definitely. We had our fishing team meeting where our teammates and I decided kind of what tournaments we're going to fish and stuff, and now that we've got that all out, with the new dates that did come out, we're going to check those out as well, and we're going to pick something else and jump in one as well.
Excellent. So is it something that you want to, or are you just trying to find the right angler for the areas and everything for your team? Or is it multiple guys from your team that want to get in on it?
I think it'll be multiple of us that want to get in on it.
Okay.
But the other thing, too, is just as far as from fishing national walleye tours to local or their other club events for the CPR formats.
Okay.
And fishing those to kind of just see what fits our schedule. Because, I think we've got 11 tournaments right now on our plate. So trying to figure out in a schedule where it fits well and where we can travel to would be the only conflict that we're going to be looking at.
So what other tournament series do you fish?
We fish the AIM series. We've been doing that one since that's come out. The Green Bay Walleye series, which has just started. We fish that. What else we got? MWCs we fished, Merck National, Otter Street. We kind of do everything that's in the area. So we kind of try to balance it so we're at least home so our wives don't kill us when we're on the water.
Do you ever do any over in like Minnesota or anything like that?
We've gone over there for some championships.
Okay.
But we have not gone over there specifically for a tournament in that area.
Yeah, because it looks like I just pulled it up here on the computer. Is it 8 different zones? We've got 4 in Wisconsin and looks like 1 on the border and then 3 in Minnesota, with the championship being somewhere around the Mississippi, Minneapolis area. But that I'm really intrigued after fishing the bass side what this walleye side's going to look like, because you've got some dates that are midsummer. I mean, to me, like I said earlier, spring walleye fishing is all I know how to do. I'm really intrigued to log on and watch these events that are going to be in mid-June and mid-July, and then the championship being in August. I guess I don't put walleye fishing in the middle of summer on something I do normally.
Right.
So I'm sure the techniques will change throughout the whole summer and everything as events go on.
Well, and the nice thing too with not being able to use live bait, you're going to be able to learn a ton of stuff from these guys.
Yeah.
As far as local areas and areas these other people fish to maybe put some more arsenal in your tackle box and put more fish in your boat as well at the same time, be successful.
Absolutely. Now, do you walleye tournaments are kind of your forte? Do you ever dip your toes in the bass circuits at all, or would you be interested in the head-to-head bass event? I
would actually. Something that would definitely interest me, and maybe even going up and doing like the Sturgeon Bay Open or something.
Yeah,
and getting
absolutely.
That, and hopefully by doing that, my favorite fishermen I talk to are bass guys, because normally it's like, you catch any walleyes today? Yeah, I caught a couple of them. Well, where'd you catch those? I got a couple of bass spots, and you kick things back and forth to, hopefully learn some new spots as well at the same time.
Yeah, that Sturgeon Bay Open is something I definitely want to fish someday, but there are some real hammers in that. People come from around the country to do that, but I think last year the average was over 6 pounds of fish.
Crazy.
It was just
That
unreal.
is crazy.
I've caught one at 5.5, and I couldn't imagine having a bag of 5 of them bigger than that.
No, me neither.
And, some of those guys make some serious runs for that event. Even the Wisco event up there last year was some terrible weather. I heard some power poles and some talons got ripped off boats in the weather, and people still tried to make the run and whatever. But it's no different. The elites were up there, 3 years ago, and there's pictures of those guys where all of a sudden you just see the guy and no boat because it's underneath the wave and the next wave coming. So that place can get kind of crazy up there. What's the worst weather I guess you've taken a client out in up there?
Normally, we normally pick our days, we pay close attention to the weather as far as when we can and can't go out on the water. But I mean, at the same time, we've been caught in some pretty nasty storms, or you try to keep a close eye on it. It's like, oh, we pushed our luck a little too much to where we go into shore and take shelter for a little while and go back out. But normally we try to keep it to under a small craft advisory, which I won't go out with clients over that. But, hopefully you get a nice 2-foot chop on the water so you get some walleye action and breaks up the light a little bit for the fish to normally make it a little better fishing for you.
Excellent.
But at the same time, we've been stuck in some pretty nasty weather as well.
Oh, I'm sure. So what is your biggest walleye you've caught before?
I think I've got a 31 3/4.
Okay.
I think is my biggest.
Have any of your clients beaten that, or?
They have not. We've had some nice fish on that would be very close, would have liked to measure. One that stands out, we were in Erie, one of our fun trips we did 2 years ago. We were night fishing, and my dad actually had the rod. Just released a nice 28-inch fish, put it in the box, carved it up, and my dad had the rod in his hand, and I'm asking, like, what do you got going on? He's like, I don't know, I think I'm snagged. Well, he's reeling it nice and easy, and finally came in, and I'm like, oh, it's a northern. Like, all right, well, that's kind of weird. Wasn't expecting this in Lake Erie.
Yeah.
Well, once we got some lights on, and it was actually a walleye swimming in Lake of Northern on top of the water. Just, I've never seen a walleye that big in my life.
Weird. And you didn't get it in?
He stopped reeling when the guy went to net, and the fish got caught on the outside of the netting, and one thing led to another, and the fish swam away. So we never actually touched it, but that I want to say was probably the biggest walleye I've ever seen on.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm probably saying 32, maybe 33, but
wow,
that's why we keep going back,
just
to get a fish like that.
I know when I went up and I took a guide trip up on Sturgeon Bay a couple years ago. We were out smallmouth fishing, and each of us caught really good walleye. We were throwing hair jigs, and all of a sudden, ding, and it just felt a lot heavier and a lot different. And I think my cousin had a 29. My buddy Jared, I think, had a 29.5, and I had a 28.5, all in one day.
And those fish have shoulders up there too.
Oh yeah,
those are nice fish to catch.
Yeah, and that was June, like the first weekend in June. So they were kind of, one of them you could tell was definitely spawned out, and it's like, man, that fish would have been way fatter. So, but yeah, that fishery's special up there. Everything up there is big.
I might need that spot too.
I don't even remember exactly where it was. I wish I would have been on my phone. All right, let's mark this little spot on Google Maps. So, but yeah, it was pretty impressive. We're just sitting there fishing for smallmouth. The next thing you know, you got a trophy walleye on. So, but yeah, let's see if anyone had any questions here. Otherwise, we'll probably get everything wrapped up. Someone said, I didn't mount my 98-pounder, but I know a guy who has one of his head mounted. Interesting. So they just had the head of the sturgeon mounted, I'm guessing?
Yeah, you see guys that'll do like skull mounts with them and stuff, or even just like behind the gills, they'll mount so it sticks on the wall. But normally, when I do see fish that are mounted, they're either in the bars, or even when those guys do get those smaller sturgeon, just because it's more affordable. To where they'll mount a smaller one. Okay. But normally, otherwise, guys normally just clean them
know
up.
of anyone that has one mounted on their wall, like a big one?
I personally do not know. I know if you go to Stockbridge, though, they've got one there. I know Quinny's got a nice fish in theirs. Okay. So I know if you go around the lake, there's definitely mounts of them in there in the bar, so you can see them, though.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we'll have to hook up, and maybe I'll have to try my hand at sturgeon spearing sometime, or you can show me a few things on walleye fishing.
Next time, let's find a way to do this here on the water.
We can make that happen maybe next year, right, Zach? But yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning in here. Again, this podcast is sponsored by The Real Shot. Couple promos that they've got going on if you guys want to stop in store or go online. For firearms, we've got 10% off on all in-stock over-under shotguns. They've got $100 off while supplies last for the Vortex Impact Rangefinder. They've got Amcor 22 long rifle, 500 rounds at $16.99. And then 10% off turkey ammo. So spring turkey season's coming up. And then for hunting stuff, there's some stuff obviously you got your turkey season coming up. You've got 20% off all turkey calls, 15% off preseason bow fishing equipment, 25% off all scent crusher products, 15% off all in-stock cutlery, And also got a couple deals on some crossbows, 20% off on all in-stock crossbows. And they still have the $100 off a 4-pack of cuttybacks. And the fire disc, if anyone hasn't seen one of those, is 50% off. They're pretty cool. I've seen Matt and the guys cooking some stuff on TRS Live with those. So come in, support the Real Shot. Go to the website. Again, they've got free same-day, or not free, but free in-store pickup, same-day delivery here in the Fox Valley. And again, a blowout sale on their ice fishing equipment up to 20% off. So thank you guys for tuning in. Look forward to next week. Next week's topic is going to be on some muskie fishing. We're going to have a gentleman in here that is partnered up with Muskies Inc. to come in and talk all things muskie fishing and what Muskies Inc. is all about. So appreciate it. Make sure you go and follow us on YouTube. This video will be posted on there after the show. Also, the audio version is available on most of your podcast platforms, so iTunes, Spotify. Give us a follow, review the show, share the show on Facebook with all your friends. We'll have a giveaway coming up here soon for some people that joined in early and be able to give back to those people. So appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good week.